They say we're living in the golden age of authenticity, where being real pays more than being fake, and your true self is literally your greatest asset. But here's the mind-blowing part that nobody's talking about. Marcus Aurelius saw this coming 2,000 years ago, not in some business forecast, but written in his personal journal that would become the most powerful self-help book in history. But while everyone else was chasing gold and glory in ancient Rome, this emperor was journaling about something revolutionary. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He wasn't just talking about inner peace. He was predicting the future economy where consciousness becomes currency. In a world obsessed with side hustles, crypto trading, and get-rich-quick schemes, Marcus offered something that feels almost dangerous. What if making money isn't about grinding harder, but about knowing yourself deeper? What if your struggles, your story, your authentic voice is actually your most valuable business asset? Stay with me, because the 5 strategies I'm about to reveal aren't from some guru selling courses. They're timeless principles from a man who ruled an empire while discovering that true wealth comes from within. And in today's attention economy, that ancient wisdom is pure gold. Asterisk, the philosophy of authentic wealth. Asterisk, Marcus Aurelius wasn't scrolling Instagram or launching a podcast. He was running the Roman Empire while writing what would become Meditations, basically the OG personal development manual. But here's what blows my mind. This guy understood something about human nature that perfectly explains why authentic creators are crushing it in 2025. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy, he wrote. In today's language, the best business strategy is not to be like everyone else, copying the same tired formulas. While Marcus was dealing with wars, plagues, and political chaos, he discovered a truth that's now revolutionizing how we think about money. Your inner world determines your outer results. Let me break this down with a modern example. There's this woman who is absolutely miserable in corporate law. Brilliant, successful by every metric, but dying inside. She kept a secret journal where she wrote these wild mystical short stories and sketched weird cartoon characters during boring meetings. When she finally burned out and quit, she started sharing her art online just for fun. 2 years later, she's making 6 figures from a webcomic series that has millions of followers. That's Marcus Aurelius in action. Confine yourself to the present, he taught. She stopped performing the lawyer version of herself and started being present with her actual creativity. The money followed because authenticity is magnetic. Here's the thing that's revolutionary about our current moment. We're witnessing the death of the old economy. You know, the one where you had to suffer to earn, compete, to rise, and basically sell your soul for a paycheck. AI is automating the grind work. Social media has democratized influence, and people are absolutely starving for real human connection. Marcus saw this pattern in his own time. How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does. Translation: stop copying everyone else's business model and start mining your own experience for gold. Your story is your strategy. Your healing is your product. Your consciousness is your currency. The emperor understood something that most entrepreneurs today still don't get. External wealth without inner peace is just sophisticated suffering. But when you align with your true nature, when you stop fighting yourself and start working with yourself, money becomes a natural byproduct of living fully. Think about the creators you actually follow and trust. They're not the ones with perfect marketing funnels or the slickest presentations. They're the ones who feel real, who share their struggles alongside their successes, who aren't afraid to show their humanity. That's because authenticity activates something primal in us. It's how we recognize truth. Marcus wrote, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is perspective, not truth." In the attention economy, your unique perspective is your competitive advantage, your way of seeing the world, processing experiences, and making meaning. That's intellectual property that can't be stolen or replicated. But here's where most people get stuck. They think being authentic means being unprofessional, or that having integrity means staying broke. Marcus proves this wrong. He was literally the most powerful person in the world, while being radically committed to truth, self-reflection, and inner development. Authenticity isn't anti-success. It's the fastest path to sustainable success. The universe is change. Life is what our thoughts make it. That's the foundation of everything we're about to explore. Your thoughts create your reality, which creates your opportunities, which creates your income. When you change how you think about yourself and your value, the marketplace responds. The old paradigm said, work hard, follow the rules, wait for permission, and maybe you'll get rewarded. The new paradigm that Marcus predicted says, know yourself deeply, share that knowledge generously, and wealth flows naturally from wisdom. We're not just making money differently now, we're making meaning differently. And when meaning meets marketplace, magic happens. Marcus Aurelius proved that the most powerful position in the world is complete alignment with yourself. In today's economy, that's not just philosophy, it's the ultimate business strategy. Shadow, alchemy, turning pain into profit. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius wrote those words while dealing with betrayal, loss, and the constant threat of death. He understood something that modern psychology is just catching up to. Your deepest wounds often contain your greatest gifts. In today's hyper-connected world, people are desperate for real stories. Not highlight reels or success porn, but actual human experiences with all the mess, the failure, and the struggle included. That thing you've been hiding, the breakdown, the addiction, the toxic relationship that nearly destroyed you, the family trauma you've never talked about. That's not your shame. That's your goldmine. I'm not talking about trauma dumping or performing your pain for views. Marcus was big on the difference between wisdom and mere suffering. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. He wasn't complaining, he was preparing himself to transform difficult experiences into wisdom. The alchemy happens when you process your experience consciously, when you can tell your story not for pity, but for healing, both yours and others. Right now, former addicts are building million-dollar recovery coaching businesses. Divorce survivors are creating communities for people navigating breakups. People who've healed from narcissistic abuse are teaching others to spot red flags. Here's what Marcus understood that most people miss. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Your obstacles aren't blocking your path to success, they are your path to success. Every challenge you've overcome is a course you could teach. Every pattern you've broken is a program you could create. But there's an art to this. You can't just throw your trauma online and expect a paycheck. Marcus practiced what we'd now call philosophical journaling. He examined his experiences, extracted the lessons, and transformed pain into wisdom. That's the process that creates value. Take someone like Glennon Doyle. She transformed her struggles with addiction, marriage, and identity into multiple best-selling books and a media empire. Or Matthew McConaughey turning his philosophy on life into a best-selling memoir and speaking career. They didn't just share their stories, they alchemized them into wisdom that serves others. The key is what Marcus called the view from above, the ability to see your life from a broader perspective. When you can zoom out and see how your struggles connect to universal human experiences, you've found your niche. Your specific combination of pain and healing is unique, but the patterns you've navigated are archetypal. Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight. Marcus wrote this after losing multiple children and dealing with constant political turmoil. He understood that everything we resist contains energy that can be redirected toward creation. Your unprocessed pain is trapped creative energy. Your healed trauma is liberated wisdom. The marketplace is reflecting this shift. Traditional therapy has a months-long waiting list. People are hiring coaches who've walked their exact path, rather than therapists with just academic training. Lived experience is becoming more valuable than credentials, because transformation requires more than information, it requires embodied wisdom. Social media platforms are rewarding vulnerable, honest content over polished perfection. TikTok therapists are reaching millions. Instagram poets are selling out books. YouTube creators sharing their healing journeys are building six-figure businesses. The algorithms favor authenticity because that's what keeps people engaged. But here's the deeper principle Marcus understood. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. When you shift from victim to alchemist, from someone things happen to someone who transforms things that happen, your entire energy changes. And that energy shift is what attracts opportunities, collaborations, and income. This isn't about exploiting your pain, it's about honoring your resilience. Marcus faced plague, war, and personal tragedy. While maintaining his philosophical practice, he proved that you can be soft and strong, vulnerable and powerful, healed and still healing. Your story is your strategy, because your healing is someone else's hope. And hope, packaged as wisdom, is one of the most valuable commodities in today's overwhelming world. Marcus knew this. Be like the rocky headland on which the waves constantly break. It stands firm, and round it the seething waters are laid to rest. You're not the storm anymore. You're the lighthouse. And people pay attention to those who light the way. Soul-led mastery. Your journey is your authority. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Marcus Aurelius wasn't just talking about personal conflicts. He was describing a revolutionary approach to expertise that's completely transforming how we think about qualifications, authority, and who gets to teach what. The traditional education system is crumbling under its own weight. We were programmed to believe that learning happens in classrooms, that authority comes from institutions, and that you need permission from some board or committee before you're qualified to help others. But Marcus proved something different. Real wisdom comes from lived experience, deep reflection, and the courage to share what you've learned. Think about it. Marcus Aurelius is still quoted 2,000 years later, not because he had a degree in philosophy, but because he actually lived philosophical principles while managing impossible circumstances. He wasn't reading about Stoicism in a textbook. He was practicing it during plagues, wars, and political chaos. His authority came from integration, not information. This is exactly what's happening in today's economy. People are waking up to the fact that information doesn't equal transformation. You can have 3 degrees and still be emotionally illiterate. You can spend $200,000 on education and still have no idea what you're here to do. Meanwhile, someone who's actually walked through depression and healed it might be a better guide for mental health than someone who only studied it academically. The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. Marcus understood that personal transformation is the real curriculum. If you've metabolized an experience, truly processed it, learned from it, and integrated the lessons, you're qualified to guide others through similar territory. I'm seeing this everywhere. Trauma survivors becoming coaches, former addicts building recovery programs, people who've healed chronic illness teaching wellness, individuals who've transformed their relationship with money offering financial mentorship. Their credentials aren't hanging on a wall. They're written in their energy, their presence, their authentic voice. But here's the crucial distinction Marcus made. There's a difference between having experiences and having wisdom. How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does, but only to what he does himself. The real work is the inner work, the reflection, the processing, the conscious extraction of lessons from life events. This is why some people who've been through hell become bitter, while others become healers. It's not what happens to you that creates authority, it's how you work with what happens to you. Marcus faced betrayal from his own son, the death of his children, and the constant pressure of leadership. But instead of becoming cynical, he became wise. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's the foundation of soul-led authority. When you take responsibility for your inner world, when you stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being a conscious participant in your evolution, you develop something no institution can give you: embodied wisdom. The marketplace is reflecting this shift. People are hiring intuitive business coaches over MBAs, holistic health practitioners over traditional doctors, spiritual mentors over academic counselors. They want someone who's not just studied the map, but actually walked the territory. Social media has democratized expertise. You don't need a publisher to write a book, a gallery to show your art, or a university to teach your wisdom. You just need the courage to share your truth consistently, and the patience to let your audience find you. But Marcus warned against ego in this process. Remember that very little disturbs the balance of things. Your job isn't to be the guru, or have all the answers. It's to be a fellow traveler who's maybe a few steps ahead on a particular path. The moment you start thinking you're above the journey, you lose the very thing that made you valuable in the first place. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy applies to the old model of expertise too. Instead of trying to out-credential the establishment, you out-authentic them. Instead of competing with institutions, you create something they can't. Genuine human connection based on shared experience and real transformation. Your authority isn't something you earn from others. It's something you develop within yourself through honest self-reflection and conscious growth. And that inner authority, when shared generously, becomes outer influence. Marcus knew this. True power comes not from position, but from presence. Asterisk, creative, transmission, art as economic force. Asterisk, confine yourself to the present. When Marcus Aurelius wrote these words, he was describing something profound about creativity that we're just rediscovering. Authentic creative expression isn't just art, it's a direct transmission of consciousness that people can feel, crave, and will absolutely pay for. Marcus understood that creativity flows from presence, not pressure. He wrote his meditations not for publication, but as a personal practice of processing his experiences and distilling wisdom from daily life. The fact that it became one of history's most influential books proves something crucial. When you create from authenticity rather than strategy, you tap into something universal. In today's economy where automation is replacing routine work, what remains irreplaceable is originality, not just being different, but being genuinely yourself in your creative expression. Your specific way of seeing, feeling, and interpreting the world is intellectual property that can't be replicated by AI or copied by competitors. The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. This isn't just philosophy, it's a creative manifesto. Your thoughts, when translated into art, music, writing, or any form of expression, literally change the universe for the people who encounter your work, and they're willing to pay for that transformation. Look at what's happening right now. Artists are making six figures selling digital art that channels their spiritual experiences. Musicians are building careers from bedroom recordings that capture raw emotion. Writers are monetizing their journals through newsletters and self-published books. Poets are selling out venues reading work about their healing journeys. The key insight Marcus offered is this: everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is perspective, not truth. Your creative perspective is your value proposition. The way you interpret love, loss, growth, struggle, beauty, that's not just personal expression. It's medicine for people who share your frequency. But here's where most creators get stuck. They think they need to be the next Picasso or Shakespeare to monetize their art. Marcus proves this wrong. His writing style wasn't fancy. It was direct, honest, sometimes even repetitive, but it was real. It came from someone actually living the principles he wrote about. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. In the creative economy, this means not trying to copy what's already successful, but mining your own experience for original material. Your depression might become a poetry collection. Your spiritual awakening might become an art series. Your relationship with your body might become a dance practice that you teach others. The marketplace is hungry for this kind of authentic creativity. People are oversaturated with AI-generated content and perfectly polished marketing. What cuts through the noise is work that feels channeled from a real human experience, that carries the energy of someone who's actually lived what they're expressing. Marcus wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." This applies perfectly to the creative process. Your pain, confusion, and struggle aren't obstacles to creativity, they're the raw material. When you transmute your experiences into art, you're not just processing your own healing, you're creating something that helps others process theirs. Instagram artists are building empires from illustrations about anxiety and healing. TikTok creators are going viral with 30-second videos about their therapy breakthroughs. Musicians are finding their biggest audiences by sharing songs about their mental health journeys. The more real it is, the more it resonates. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. When you create from an integrated place, when you've processed your experiences and can express them with both honesty and wisdom, your work carries a frequency that people can feel. It's the difference between performance and transmission. This isn't about being perfect or having it all figured out. Marcus was still working through his philosophy while he was writing it. The power is in the real-time processing, the authentic sharing of your evolution. People don't just buy art, they buy the energy behind it. The revolution Marcus predicted is happening. Consciousness is becoming the most valuable commodity. When you create from awareness, presence, and authentic experience, you're not just making art, you're offering transformation. And transformation is priceless. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength, when expressed creatively, becomes a lighthouse for others navigating similar territory. And in today's attention economy, lighthouses don't just guide ships, they generate revenue. Conscious community, the empire of connection. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Marcus Aurelius understood something about leadership and community that's become the secret weapon of today's most successful creators. You don't need to dominate a massive audience, you need to deeply serve the right people. Think about this. Marcus ruled the largest empire in history, but his most lasting impact came from his personal journal that spoke to individuals about their inner lives. He knew that real influence happens in intimate connection, not grand spectacles. This principle is revolutionizing how we think about building sustainable income online. You don't need 100,000 followers, you need 100 true believers. People who resonate so deeply with your energy, your message, your way of being, in the world that they want to be in ongoing relationship with your work. Marcus called this the discipline of action, focusing on what actually matters rather than what looks impressive. How much trouble he avoids, who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does, but only to what he does himself. In the creator economy, this means stopping the comparison game with mega-influencers and instead focusing on building genuine community with people who actually need what you offer. Here's what's revolutionary about this moment. The tools for community building have been democratized. You can create a paid Discord server for spiritual discussions. You can start a Substack newsletter sharing your healing journey. You can build a membership site around any niche that aligns with your lived experience. You can host virtual retreats, online workshops, or intimate group coaching programs. The magic happens when you stop trying to be everything to everyone and start being exactly yourself for the right people. Marcus understood this. The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. Your specific thoughts, your unique perspective, your particular way of processing life, that's going to attract people who think similarly and repel those who don't. That's not a bug, it's a feature. I'm seeing this everywhere. Someone creates a small online community for people healing from narcissistic abuse, charges $30 a month, gets 200 members, and suddenly has a six-figure business. Another person starts a newsletter about conscious parenting, builds 1,000 subscribers who each pay $10 monthly for deeper content, and replaces their corporate salary. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This is the foundation of conscious community building. When you've done the inner work, when you know yourself and can hold space for others' growth, you become valuable in a way that can't be automated or replicated. But here's the key distinction Marcus made. Leadership is service, not performance. You're not building a cult of personality, you're creating a container for transformation. People aren't paying for access to your ego, they're investing in their own growth facilitated by your wisdom and presence. The old model was about building audiences to sell to. The new model is about building communities to serve. When you focus on genuine connection, mutual support, and shared growth, money becomes a natural byproduct of the value you're creating. Marcus wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Applied to community building, this means not copying the guru model of one person having all the answers. Instead, you become what he modeled, a fellow traveler who's committed to ongoing growth and honest about the journey. Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is perspective, not truth. Your community becomes a place where people can explore their own perspectives, share their truths, and support each other's evolution. You're not the sage on the stage, you're the guide on the side. The platforms are built for this now. Patreon for ongoing support, Circle for community discussion, Mighty Networks for course integration, even simple WhatsApp groups for intimate connection. The technology serves relationship building in ways that weren't possible when Marcus was actually building an empire. Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight. Community members will come and go, and that's natural. Your job isn't to hold on to everyone, but to consistently show up as your authentic self and trust that the right people will stay and the wrong people will leave. The empire Marcus built crumbled centuries ago, but his ideas, shared authentically through writing, are still building community today. That's the power of consciousness, transmitted through genuine connection. In today's economy, that's not just philosophy, it's the most sustainable business model ever created. Truth shared consistently creates community. Community nurtured consciously creates economy. An economy built on authenticity creates freedom.